Okay, looks like we're on the air. So this is San Francisco Bay Area Vegans and Technology. This is our first virtual meetup. It's a Google Hangout. It'll be available on YouTube afterward. And today, Mike Kobliska of Shark, Animals, Respect, and Kindness. And they use technology in some really innovative and interesting ways to expose and document animal abuse. They're very much on the front line, activists doing direct action to get results. And Mike is their technologist, and he's going to talk to us today about some of the things they do with drones and other technology, some of their campaigns, about his organization, and about technology in general. Also here is Johanna, another organizer of sfvtech, and any number of viewers who can ask questions in the Q&A app as they see fit, and then we will answer them when the time is right. So I'll hand it over to you, Mike, to talk about you and Shark and so forth.
Thanks, Stephen. It's great to talk to you guys. I love hearing about vegans and technology. I think you folks might be a little spoiled out there, but once you leave the Bay Area, boy, vegans and tech just don't go together. You find so little science-based thinking out in the rest of the country when it comes to the animal rights, animal welfare movement, that it's nice. It's wonderful to talk to you guys. I do work for Shark. We're a 20-year-old organization. We do animal welfare type investigations. We see things that we feel are cruel to animals, and we'll go in and document this and try and get changes brought. We focus a lot of our efforts on rodeos. They do some incredibly cruel things to these animals to get them to perform. Pigeon shoots, these are live events where they kill pigeons for fun. Factory farming, we document a lot of cruelty associated with those organizations, and a lot with these government calls. They're killing a lot of deer and a lot of different animals, so whatever gets in the way of humans, whether it's geese at airports or too many wild pigs, and we'll try and document how they're killing those animals. So our primary tool is videotape. Everything we do starts and ends with videotape. Our feeling is that it's one thing we can sit and tell people that such and such is bad and it's cruel all day long. But what people really respond to, in our experience, is videotape. We try and show them what's going on, and without, just show them the videotape, and here it is. It's up. We leave it up to the people to decide if what we're filming is really cruel or not. We don't spend a lot of time telling people these things. We try and show them. So in our effort to get videotape, we've turned to technology. We're in a bit of an arms race with these people that we're filming. They know what they're doing doesn't look good on videotape, and they take great efforts to try and hide their activities. So as soon as we find one way to videotape them, they'll take great pains to change their modus operandi so we can't videotape, and we've got to improve our methods to keep getting that videotape. So in order to do that, the primary technology we're using right now is two forms. One are drones that we can get up and videotape this activity, and the second half is using hidden cameras to document mostly these government killing operations. And that's where we use a lot of technology in those to keep those hidden cameras running. So to talk about the drones a little bit, I've got a few slides I'd like to try and bring up if we can make this work. Sorry about that. How does that look?
Looks good.
Looks good. Okay. So some of this is a little bit of a rehash. I do work for Shark. Still okay?
Yep.
Okay. So with our UAV operations, we've been doing this for about 7 years now. We started out with some tiny little UAVs.
Joanna, do you see? I'm sorry, Mike. Do you see anything on the screen? I see a big black rectangle. Same, Johanna? Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, now we got it.
Yeah, this is. I'm not sure how to advance my slides in this. Let me. It's not letting me play it.
And that's while using the Hangouts screen share option?
Yeah. Or my keynote won't let me advance if I'm full screen. And this it wants to try and edit.
Oh, that's irritating.
Yeah. You aren't seeing that, Tom. All right, maybe I'll just have to talk.
Okay. Well, we can see the screen at least.
Yeah. Let me try and one more thing here.
Okay.
I think if I bring up my navigator, you have to see it, but I can use it.
Hey, that works. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool.
So the videotape that we do get, the way we use this is we'll take that videotape to the lawmakers and try and get laws changed if that's appropriate. We show our videotape to the general public through YouTube. We have I think we're up to about 20 million views on our channel. We get this out far and wide. We'll take it to law enforcement and try and get charges brought in cases where it's very egregious cruelty. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't, we'll take it to the media and we'll try and embarrass the authorities into doing their job, actually bringing these charges. And a lot of these people we film, they don't like seeing themselves on TV doing what they're doing. So the media is very helpful there, and in certain events like a rodeo, we'll take this videotape to the sponsors and ask them if this is truly what they want their company name associated with, and we'll try and get changes brought that way. So when we started out our program, our UAV program, there was very little out there. So we've had to build this up from scratch, and even now, when there are a lot of off-the-shelf things you can buy, we kind of fall into the cracks. You have two big types of UAV tracks out there. One, you've got the small user who's happy with the GoPro, put it up, and it can film him and doing whatever they're doing out in the backyard. And then you've got the big machines that Hollywood is using, and they don't care about. It's called persistence, being up in the air and looking down for long periods of time. They want this machine to go up and get a beautiful shot, and that's all they care about. Whereas we need to be up there for as long as we can filming. So that's prompted us to build our own machines, and so we haven't been able to buy much off the shelf. So some of the challenges, and this is very much in the air right now, the FAA, it's a real mess. It's very confusing right now. Every week they're putting out different rules, so nobody really knows what's going on right now. They do have some basic rules for recreational pilots, and that's what we follow. We have to stay below 400 feet. We need our machines to be redundant, so we use an octocopter, which means it has 8 arms. So if we do get shot, and we've been shot 3 or 4 times now, we're able to bring this machine back in most cases and get our videotape. And we also need high-quality video. We can't put a GoPro up there because we need a lot of zoom to get in on these people that are committing these crimes in many cases. And we need to have a nice facial shot of whoever's doing this activity. And here's what we came up with. We use a Cinestar frame with microcopter electronics. And we've got a massive amount of batteries on there. We use 4 of these 6.5 amp hour lipos. And our all-up weight is about 17 pounds. And with that, we're able to use a full-size Sony camera with a massive amount of zoom on it, and it's got image stabilization, and we get a real nice picture. And from the ground, we're able to rotate that gimbal. We can pan, tilt, and zoom in. So we've got wonderful control on the ground, and we're getting about 22 minutes of flight time, and then we're still up around 10,000 per machine. But this is for our very specialized equipment. If someone wants to try and get videotape of a factory farm next to them, you can do that much cheaper, and there are many little UAVs out there you can try and get started with. And here's Steve Hindy, our president, holding our machine, just to give you an idea of size of it. And I've got a little photo of it up in the air. You can see our gimbal hanging down there. Gimbal is all, it uses accelerometers and servos to counterbalance the movement of the machine, so it's perfectly stabilized on all 3 axes underneath the machine. So it takes real nice videotape. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, one of our uses to kind of show you how we're using this technology. I mentioned the pigeon chutes, and I'm going to talk about them. They kind of show they show the path that we've had to take and why we've done some of the things we've done. So a pigeon chute, these are primarily held out in Pennsylvania. They're illegal in most states. Pennsylvania still allows it. Shooters will stand in front of about 10 boxes, and they'll put live pigeons into these boxes. They open the box and apply a little electricity, and then they spring that pigeon up, and then a shooter will shoot it. And for them, the sport is they don't know which box the pigeon's coming out of. So there's a lot of wagering that goes on. These are generally very wealthy people. Some of the pigeon shooters that we videotaped, ex-presidents of the NRA, and folks like that. These are very wealthy individuals, and they're able to buy their way out of a lot of trouble. Unfortunately, it's as plain as that. The laws, what they're doing is against the law. Any reading of the law by an unbiased person, and what they're doing is illegal. Probably about half of these birds they'll kill outright, and unfortunately, they own those birds. If they want to kill them, they can kill them. But what happens is the other 50% escape into the surrounding countryside, injured, and they make no effort to retrieve these birds, and they're going to slowly die out there. And when you own an animal, you have a duty of care to that animal. You either need to take care of it or put it out of its misery humanely. And they don't do that. They abandon hundreds of these birds at every shoot to slowly die. And so we used to be able to just pull up and film these pigeon shoots. This is the Philadelphia Gun Club, where we used to, this is the Delaware River, just outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we used to be able to film these shoots, but these individuals don't like being videotaped doing what they're doing. They know it doesn't look good. At various times, charges have been brought, but then campaign donations get made and charges get dropped. So they know it's in their best interest not to let anyone see what's going on. So what they did, they built this giant tarp. These are about 20-foot high telephone poles. They drove in. No building permits are required for these guys. So here we are with our machine up above the chute. You can see down near the bottom are the boxes that the pigeons are launched out of. And the goal for them is to shoot the pigeon and have him fall within the bounds of the little fenced area there, the semi-oval area. And then this is what our machine sees from the air as we're documenting these shoots. And I've got a little bit of videotape here. It's nothing of a shoot. It's not graphic. This is after a shoot as we were looking for still living birds. Just to give you an idea of the quality of the videotape we're shooting. This videotape hasn't been edited in any post software, so it gives you an idea of how stable and what beautiful footage these machines take. We'll see if this. Okay, here we go. And we're up just under 400 feet over the Delaware River, and the birds will land outside here, and we have boats out there, and we'll rescue as many pigeons as we're able to. You can see how crystal clear and smooth that video is. Like I say, this was at the end of a shoot. And I've got a little bit more videotape here. This is at this is after another pigeon shoot. And this goes to the point that some of the things we film aren't necessarily animal cruelty. They commit a number of other crimes at these events. And what they were doing at this one, they burned the dead pigeons after the shoot, and they were using tires as an accelerant. So we got some videotape of this as well. Those are the little white spots are pigeons, and they've got this fire going, and he's throwing tires onto that fire to try and fuel. It's a tough thing to burn bodies like that, and they need a lot of accelerants to do it. And unfortunately, this is another very wealthy individual owns this club, and the Pennsylvania EPA gave him a warning. Told him never do this again. But as you'll see in a minute here, it show you how much weight that carried with them. And so this was in 2012. This was a very early machine, and you could see it was a little bit not as high quality as the previous video. So here we are in 2014, same club. They're back to burning tires again. But I included this just to show how much better the video is getting. And it's, again, we're up about 400 feet this club tends to shoot at you, so we're up just as high as we can be. That's enough there. So some of the things that we've learned in all of our UAV experience, we've been through a lot of machines, and we've spent a lot of time practicing. And for us, that's been the key, is getting in all this practice. When you're out there and there's a lot going on at any kind of event you're going to try and fly, and you need to be well practiced to handle all the things that get thrown at you. Use what you get. You might not get crystal clear animal cruelty, but maybe you'll get some other crimes on your videotape. You might, tire burning. Factory farms have a lot of things back in there they don't want anyone to see, whether it's giant manure pits or dead animals laying out. You never know what you get when you go up and look at these things. And my advice is try it. Buy one of these inexpensive little hobby drones that you can get for certainly under $1,000, and give it a shot. Even if you aren't gonna use it for anything, it's a lot of fun to play around with. Some of the issues, as I mentioned, the FAA is handling this terribly. Nobody knows what's going on right now. Every few weeks they come out with conflicting rules, and nobody knows what's going on. And state laws are banning drones as well. A lot of misguided fears out there. It reminds us of trying to ban automobiles, and then make everyone stick with the horse and buggy. They're just afraid of the new technology coming, and so that's their knee jerk, is to try and ban it. But drones are coming. They can try and ban it, but they're coming, and they're just going to get caught behind if they try and ignore them. So that's it for drones. The other half that we use are video cameras. We use these hidden cameras.
Mike, since this is a good time to ask some questions. We actually have a couple that have accumulated. First of all, can you tell us how you learn about pigeon shoots and other cool events? Johanna asks, I imagine they're pretty secretive about the time and place where they're held. So how do you find out about that?
They are. Am I coming up now?
Yeah.
Okay. We find out a few different ways. We get a lot of tips. A lot of people, even hunters, they're opposed to these pigeon shoots. It's just slaughter for slaughter's sake. All the birds are thrown away or burned, and it's just a utter waste of life. And so that would be our primary way, is we find people contact us saying, this is going to go on. What can I do? What can you do? Anything you can do to help. In Pennsylvania, they've got some of these clubs are rather organized, and they send out flyers, and we're on a mailing list for these things. It's no secret that we find out from their own. They need people to show up to these things, so they gotta hawk these events just like anyone else, and then so we find out that way. And then with the Philadelphia Gun Club, they're on a regular schedule. They haven't changed it. They go every other week, and then so we know when they're going to be going that way.
You said that when you mentioned that some activity was illegal, you mean the animal cruelty in particular, or the event in its entirety is illegal?
Yeah, there's a number of issues, but the whole thing is illegal from top to bottom. The animal cruelty, is a little tougher. You know, that's open to a little bit of, it's a little subjective, you know, and the DA they have a lot of leeway whether they want to prosecute those things or not. So we tend not to focus so much on the cruelty, but the laws that they're obviously breaking, this animal abandonment, leaving them all over the countryside out there, that there's just no way that isn't illegal. And in the case of the Philadelphia Gun Club, they use the Delaware River as their backdrop. Even with that giant tarp they've got up, we're out there in the boat and shot is raining down on us all day long. They're just polluting the Delaware River with dead animals and shot.
And lead, is it lead?
They claim to have gone away from lead for the past 10 years now. However, they've never cleaned up their previous 90 years of shooting. The EPA has been out there and they've done soil samples and they've got a massive lead problem. That's a lawsuit making its way through the courts, but they're going to be forced to clean up at some point.
Right. So also, since there's so much illegal stuff going on, they're also shooting at your drones. I know recently there was a story about I don't remember what county or state this happened, but a judge ruled that a man was justified in shooting a drone that another citizen was hovering over his property, and they thought that was okay. I mean, I can maybe, it's two sides of the story there. Here, you seem to be, exposing activity that's illegal in many, many regards, and they're shooting at your drone. Like, what happens there? Can you file charges against them, or is that illegal?
In our view, it absolutely is illegal. It is no different, to our thinking, it's no different than if a news helicopter is over your property. Just because you don't like them up there, that doesn't mean you can go ahead and shoot them out of the sky. If you see an airplane up there and you think it's too close, you're not allowed to shoot that airplane out of the sky. And especially now with the FAA trying to claim that all these drones fall in their jurisdiction, and that's fine, then you need to protect those drones as well. And then if people are shooting at these machines, then if you're going to consider them aircraft, you need to treat them like aircraft and go after these people that are shooting these machines. And so it's in our thinking, it's absolutely illegal. We were at recently in Oklahoma at Senator Inhofe. He holds a fundraiser, a live pigeon shoot, where they will blast at birds, and it's the same thing. They throw all the birds away at the end of the day. They're just all wasted. And one of his party shot down our machine. And trying to get law enforcement there to do anything we can't get them to move. Last year, Senator Inhofe hired the local sheriff. They were security at the event, and then trying to get them to do anything, they just won't. And the fact of the matter is, Senator Inhofe is giving them money to be out there, and it's they just can't make that leap from protecting him to coming and doing something about an obvious crime. This is someone's personal property. Whether you like it or not, over your property, it doesn't give you the right to shoot that down. If you feel we're invading your property, that's a civil matter. Take us to court and sue us. But you can't start shooting at things you don't like. And there are a number of issues with the shooting. They're using rifles, shooting up in the air, over roads, and it's just it's a terribly unsafe thing, the way that they're shooting machines as well.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they weren't shooting your drones all the time. It seems like they feel entitled, when they've got a gun in their hand.
Yeah,
the world is on their knees.
Yep. And in Oklahoma, Senator Inhofe carries a lot of weight. And that's just the
Mm-hmm.
fact of the matter. And we're in the state for a day, and Senator Inhofe gets he gets a certain amount of protection.
Speaking of being in the state today, one viewer Amit asks, Mike, what would you do if you get a tip from outside the state? Is there a network or group we could join to help you? How do you manage going from state to state?
We cover the entire United States. Today we're out here in Nebraska. Um, there's going to be a pit and shoot next week in Georgia. We're going to film. We cover a lot of ground. As far as we know, there's no one else out there doing this kind of work. So if you find out about something, I think we're the best ones to let know. And if for whatever reason we can't help, we might have suggestions for who you can talk to, the local sheriff or the local humane society, or certainly give you a lot of video of what happens at these kind of events that you can take to the local sheriff and ask them. And we've also got, like I say, in a lot of states these are illegal, so we've got a lot of the laws at our fingertips for those as well. So I think we're the ones who would be able to help if there's something going on that you hear about.
Great. Would it be okay if I share your direct email address?
Absolutely.
Related to this video, wherever, for people to
Yep.
contact you? Okay, cool. I do have another technical question about the drones. You're describing the gimbal, and that's like some full-on robotics bolted onto that drone. How much of that is custom or off the shelf? How much robotics do you do?
That is mostly off the shelf. It's what we're using is it's got servos that are controlling the three axes, and it picks up all of the information off the flight boards. The gimbal, the physical gimbal, is off the shelf. It's made by Sinistar, and they also make the controllers for it, and I've built all the servos that control it. So it's kind of a hybrid, half and half type contraption.
Do you have both a pilot and a cameraman operating the equipment?
We do. Right now, the gimbal is totally divorced from the machine. We used to have to yaw the machine to change our camera position, but now all three axes are controlled by the gimbal operator, and he also has zoom. So the pilot just flies and gets it in position and holds it there, and from there on, everything is the gimbal person.
I saw in one of your videos there was a shot of sort of like your control station. It's like a table. You've got the point of view camera feed. You've got the controllers. It's a lot of stuff. Do cops ever just come by and say, "Hey, what are you up to on the side of the road here"?
No, cops usually end up coming, but they aren't asking friendly questions. It's usually the police will come if there's been a shooting. In Oklahoma, the sheriff wouldn't even come out and take a report from us after the shooting.
Wow.
So in Oklahoma, yeah, we had no police asking any questions. They stayed as far away as they could. But the police generally, they've not wanted to touch it. I think they know airspace is federal, so they haven't come after us for anything. To their credit, they've had enough sense to, this is between you and whoever else. The shootings, unfortunately, they don't do anything either. They'll make a little show of investigating, but it's always couldn't find out anything. See you later.
Right.
And they leave. But we've never been hassled by the police for flying.
One of our viewers, Ed, asks, is it possible to identify yourself as press or something, or in some way, make yourself like an obvious, like, don't shoot me target, as though like you're not just an activist, like an official
Sure,
entity.
sure. I consider ourselves journalists for the purpose of taking this video. This video it gets played on the media. We broadcast it as far and as wide as we can. Um, Unfortunately, the people that are shooting at our machines, they don't care. They don't care whose drone that is. You could say you're the president. They don't want it up there. They don't want what they're doing seen by anyone. They're going to do their darn best to get you out of there, and that's shooting the machine. They can't get rid of us any other way. They're generally afraid to come out and talk to us because they don't want their faces seen. So this is their one of their few options, is to stay hidden and try and shoot at us. So they don't care.
Do you? Oh, I'm sorry. Just one more question from a viewer. Do you notify the local police when you're going to be flying drones over an event?
We don't. We'll call the airports within a 5-mile radius and tell them that we're going to be there. One of the pigeon shoot club where they were burning the tires, as I said, the owner was a wealthy person, and they built, back on their property, they built a helipad. Somehow he had gotten advice that if we wouldn't be able to fly near an airport.
No way.
So this was his way. He built that. It's a nice looking heliport back there. It's very professional looking, and so before we fly, we'll call up the gun club and tell them we're going to be flying within 5 miles of his club. But no, we don't. We haven't been calling the police beforehand.
Okay, well, I guess we can move on to this, some of the other technology we use.
Sure. The other half of what we do are these hidden cameras. And what we've been doing is, like I mentioned, the government is doing a lot of these calls where they feel there are too many deer, too many other animals, and they need to go in and thin the herd, kill these animals, try and bring the numbers down. A lot of that, to me, a lot of that science is arguable, but even stepping back before that, whether those animals need to be killed or not is an argument you can have. But what they're doing is they're killing these animals in secret. And whenever government does anything in secret, I don't think it turns out well. And so even if there is a need to kill these animals, I think they need to be more open about the process. They need to videotape what they're doing in there, or have a humane representative in there watching what they're doing. But letting them do this in secret is a bad deal for the animal. Every single call that we've filmed, there's been cruelty, and so our feeling is this needs to be a much more open process, and just letting them. I mean, what do we let the government do in secret? Executions are public. We can see what's going on. National security issues you can keep secret, but it's never a good idea letting them do what they want out there by themselves in the dark of these parks with guns and slaughtering the animals. So that's our basis for, we try and document what they're doing, how they're killing these animals in secret back there. And unfortunately, we see some pretty disturbing stuff. And this is also a bit of an arms race. We'll develop a camera and they'll find it. We have to change our methods to try and hide these cameras a little bit better so they don't find us the next year. So let me talk about our cameras just a little bit. What we're using right now, we're using the Raspberry Pi cameras. And for those of you who aren't aware, Raspberry Pi, it's a single board computer. They say credit card size. That's about the profile, but it is a little bit thicker. And it's got this wonderful camera on it. And I've got a photo of it here. There's what the Raspberry Pi looks like. It's a real simple thing. You got an HDMI port and Ethernet and some USB ports.
I'm not. Were you displaying a photo? I don't see anything.
Let me turn the screen sharing back on. Sorry.
No problem.
How about now?
There we go.
Okay. So there we are. There's the Raspberry Pi with an HDMI port, Ethernet, USBs, and the camera port is a little hard to see, but here's what the camera actually looks like. It's what it is. It's a 5 megapixel. These are sensors that they put into cell phone cameras, and they've just modified it for that little board, plugs into the camera. And it is a fabulous little camera. Let me go up to this one here. So some of the advantages, these things shoot HD videotape. And it's super compact. When we're hiding these, size is key. We need to be as small as we can. These cameras, where we set them out in the woods and leave them be, and then we go back in and collect the videotape. It would be illegal to be in there while they're doing the killing. They've passed laws to make it illegal to even be in there. So we need these things to run by themselves, and we're doing this in the dead of winter many times. They don't go out and hunt these animals. What they do is they bait them, and the animals will only eat that bait when there's no other food available. So the cold weather is very hard on batteries. We needed something that sucks low power. We have to be able to operate these via a timer. A lot of cameras, you just can't go in and edit anything. It's all, you've got to physically turn those things on. Whereas a Raspberry Pi, there is no on-off switch. It's just either it has power or it doesn't. So it works out wonderful for a timer. And we need to be able to put different size lenses on these. Sometimes we're rather close. Other times the topography is such that we're hundreds of yards away from where we need to be. Like I said, it's a 5 megapixel sensor. These have been discontinued. They're promising the next one will be as good or better. So who knows? We might even get better quality. And the wonderful thing about these is the storage. We can use these huge SD cards, and it will shoot 32 hours of HD video back in there. And we're able to shoot a lot of video without having to go back there and monkey around with the cameras. These cameras, you do have to do some hacking to get them to work. On the camera in the foreground, this is how it comes. You have to remove that little lens that it comes with, and then adapt it like the camera in the upper right. You have to put a little housing on there to hold the larger lenses. And the lenses you see in the top are they're a wide variety of out there. They use them for these little board cameras, but unfortunately the board cameras aren't HD. They're much less. So the lenses, putting that housing on, we're able to access all the lenses that already exist, and we're able to get some great video with that. And we use these, like I say, we put these cameras out in the woods, and we're able to film the killing process. If we're lucky, we have to guess where they're going to be killing and plant these cameras there, and we're able to get videotape that way. We also use Arduinos out there. These, again, are a little credit-sized card and much smaller than credits. Some of them are very tiny. And again, these are low-powered. I can't talk about how we're using them. We're in this arms race, and right now we've got a great setup, and until they find these, I have to keep that secret. But hooking up to these Arduinos, you're able to put any kind of sensor you want, whether it's sensing sound, light, movement, any kind of sensor you can dream up. You can hook it up to an Arduino, and the Arduino can operate whatever you need, whether it's a servo or any type of control that you need to keep these cameras hidden. And if anyone hasn't played around with Arduinos, they're a fun little tool. I use the Arduino Micro, and it's just a tiny little microcontroller that does wonderful things. And even if you aren't going to do anything, these Raspberry Pi cameras, they're so much fun. You can do time lapse even without modifying them. Just that little cell phone sensor. They're fun to set up around the house, out in the backyard, and they're easy to program for time-lapse photography, and you can shoot all day on a little battery, and they're just a lot of fun to play around with, even if you aren't going to use them. And then there's my email address for anyone who has any questions or any comments or anything else. So
okay. I have some questions about the second batch of technology you described.
Yes.
So you said 32 hours of video. Are you shooting continuous video usually, or is it motion triggered?
No, generally we aren't using motion. We've never. Are you saying me?
Yeah.
Okay. We haven't had much luck with the motion because we're so far away generally, and there's a lot going on in the woods, a lot of trees moving, and so it's just we're using timers. Animals generally feed at a certain time, and that's when they come in to kill them, when they come to feed. So it's and we're generally able to pick a couple hours each day when the killing is going to happen, and that's when we time them. So we've got 32 hours, and you can chop that up however you please. 2 hours a day or 10 hours a day if you needed it. You just, you're shortening your time before you have to go in and change cards and batteries, and that's, it's always a risk going in that you're going to be discovered. So the longer that you can leave that camera be, the better.
You mentioned power consumption being an issue. The frequency of visiting the site is probably, you'd want to reduce that as much as possible. I can see that there'd be big I can see the problems involved with like a solar panel, but have you thought about solar energy sources?
We have, and boy, that would be nice if we were able to work out something. But we have to keep such a small footprint out there. These people are generally looking for cameras. They know how much videotape hurts what they're doing out there. That they can't let the public see what's actually happening. So they go to great lengths to try and make sure that they aren't being videotaped. And there are some operators out there. This is what they do: is go around. They're hired guns. community can hire them to come in and kill. And so we're well known to each other, and you have to keep a small footprint as possible. So I want to use solar at some point. I've got a lot of panels, and I've run them, just to try them, but I've never actually used them in an operation.
Okay. Do you do nighttime shooting? And if so, do you have to use like an infrared light source or something? Is that more complicated there?
We do. We generally do shoot at night. Unfortunately, we can't use any infrared. They go in and they scan the area for any infrared.
Oh, so they have cameras that are sensitive to infrared light?
Yep.
I see.
And so we just have to do the very best we can in low light. And the Arduino, or the Pis, they sell two versions. One is regular color, and the second one has the filter removed, the red filter. It's called the NOIR camera, and so that's what we use, and you get. It's nowhere near perfect, and infrared would be so much better, but it's the best we can do just in the raw dark shooting.
You had mentioned when you're describing the features of the Raspberry Pi that they have interchangeable lenses, and I was thinking, oh, that's a pretty advanced feature, but you actually hacked the interchangeability onto there yourself.
Correct.
That's pretty
correct. Cool. Yeah, it comes with the lens just like you'd find on your cell phone cameras. So we've got to get in there and adapt those.
So the lenses, the larger lenses that you're using, are those like the aftermarket kind of bolt onto your cell phone camera type lenses that you can get on Amazon?
No, they aren't. These are called board camera lenses. And any time you see, where they sell these like a smoke detector with a hidden camera in there, or a clock radio with the camera in there, they've got board cameras in there. So that's what and we've been using those as hidden cameras for the past 20 years. So there's a huge quantity of these lenses out there, all different sizes and focal lengths and everything you could ever want. So once you get the mount for it, then you're home free. You can try a lot of different lenses.
We have another question from Ed. An astute observation here. He says, can Raspberry Pi technology be set up with some type of relay or transmitter from device to device such that you can get video, audio in real time? I know that you've been working with mesh networks, which I think is along those lines. Is that the ultimate goal, so that you can monitor remotely?
That would be ideal, and we would love to do that, and even a pan tilt zoom camera that. Right now we set up those cameras and that's it. You got to walk away. You take your best shot and hope you get it. But if you could watch in real time, boy, you could pan that camera around and do what you needed to do. But unfortunately, we're generally in areas where there's not even a cell phone coverage. So we're stuck with what we have. I've played around, and we have. We've made them work on the bench, but we're just so far out in the woods with these things that we just haven't had the cell phone connection to do it. But that would be ideal if we can figure out a way to make that work.
Okay.
We'll give it a shot.
So what do you do with the footage? You say the government the local governments, or even the federal governments, I guess, are really concerned about you not videotaping them. What are the effects of the video getting in public?
Sure. With the deer call footage, we've been able to make a lot of changes. One of the things that they were doing was something called rocket netting, where they spread out bait over a field, and they'll get 10 or 12 deer that come in and feed on this. And they've got these explosive nets hooked on rockets and they'll launch a net all over these deer, and they get a dozen deer all thrashing and fighting under this, and then they'll come up and try and shoot them, and it's just a horrific mess. And then we got those banned. Last winter, we were in Will County, Illinois, filming their deer call, and we met with them a number of times afterwards, and they made changes to their program. Not everything we would like, of course, but they're improving some of their protocols and changing the way they do things, documenting things better, and so it's a slow process. In Ohio, we filmed. They like to claim, they're expert marksmen. They one shot and they kill these animals, but that isn't what happened in Ohio. They were killing it was a park that they used for soccer fields, and they didn't like the deer bleeding all over these fields because people come in and see it and complain. So they were putting plastic bags over the animals' heads where they'd shot them. And these animals weren't dead, so they were suffocating them with the bags instead, and it just went on. And that program was, after the video came out, it was stopped. That was a few years ago, and unfortunately they've started back up. They claim to have sorted out all the problems, and they're now perfectly humane, and no one can come in and see it, but they're doing it right now. So it's a very slow process, and unfortunately these calls are just exploding around the country more and more. We've taken away the predators and just made a real mess of things. So these are more and more programs. So we're hoping we'll get enough footage that it's going to put a dent in some of these and make them reconsider the way they're doing this. And at the very minimum, document it themselves, or allow humane community members to come in and monitor this thing and make sure they're doing it humanely. So that's the end goal. That's what we hope to happen with this. But so far, it's been little changes here and there.
Okay. Sorry to echo, and I tripped myself up. On a personal note, how did you get into technology generally? And then I don't know if you're still juggling a professional life in addition to this work you do with Shark, but could you talk a little about your transition into working with Shark and what is that proportion of activist versus professional?
I was lucky enough to grow up in Rochester, Minnesota. We had a large IBM plant there. My dad worked for IBM, so we had computers in the house, and that's I was very comfortable. Fortran and BASIC, and so I grew up with all the technology that was able to offer. And then I got away from it a little bit in the sense I went to work as a private investigator, doing surveillance for many years. There was some technology in that we used hidden cameras, but most of it was just regular old video cameras out there doing surveillance. And then I started working with Shark about 15 years ago, and it was... I don't have a great love for technology. I'll admit that. It was more a necessity that there's such a need for this out there, and no one else is doing these things with technology, and so there was a little space for us there to get in, and there's so much good work that can be done with technology that just isn't being used. So that's why I'm back in it like we are. Doing as much as we can, and it's born out of necessity. And it's the only way to do a lot of this stuff. There's just no other way to get some of this videotape. So
do you work exclusively for Shark?
Yep, I do now.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. For many years, it was still working as a PI and volunteering for Shark, and since we've gotten bigger and more donations, I'm able to work full time for them now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
You said that there is still a need for more people doing what you're doing. What would how can people help if anyone else feels like this is something they would like to do? What advice do you have?
Sure, I'm always available on my email, and then there's always that avenue. But there's so many in any neighborhood, any small town. There's so much that goes on that could be documented by people with a little bit of creativity and a little bit of technology. And then you can get a lot of things on videotape, and you can make changes for a lot of animals with just a little bit of videotape of what's actually going on out there. You know, whether it's a slaughter plant, things that can be seen from the road, or the local rodeos as they come to town, just documenting those things. And every person has got they've got some animal use industries at arm's length away from them, and videotape of what really goes on there goes a long way. People and lawmakers and the media, they love videotape.
All right, true. Johanna, do you have any questions for Mike? I'm not hearing you.
No.
There you are, maybe?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I had the same question, which was just more about how we can kind of support their efforts, and they're definitely doing really heroic work for animals, and it's great, and it's so important. So those were some good tips, I think, of like things you can do in your own community to help raise awareness about the stuff that's going on. So.
And we've got on the Shark website, we have a newsletter we put out with a lot of tips and things going on around the country. So there's always people can find out things that we're involved with and where this technology is going to take us, and hopefully we continue getting good videotape.
If you had just one piece of technology that you wanted, if you could only pick one piece, like what would you say is the most powerful in your view?
I think it's the videotape, the hidden camera videotape. I think that's, and then there's going to be a lot more of that footage coming out of that. And for me, that's the footage that's going to make a lot of change as we document what they're really doing to these animals, the way they're really running these call operations. Mm-hmm. Once the public sees what's going on, I think that's going to prompt a lot of change. So I'm in love with those Raspberry Pi cameras right now. They're just wonderful little. They have so much going for them. That's my favorite tech right now, even more than the drones.
Cool.
The drones are a little. Those are a higher expense level, and the amount of time you have to put into those is so much greater than those little cameras. Anyone can grab those and throw them up, and who knows what you get.
All right. Well, it's been over an hour already. I could talk about these details forever, but I guess it's time to wrap this up. So thank you so much for your time, Mike. Really appreciate it. We will put a recording of this on our YouTube channel and pass it around along with contact information for you personally, and links to Shark, so that people could sign up for the newsletter or learn more through Shark or through you.
Or donate.
Or donate, yeah. Which is there any way that people could support Shark or the work that you do?
Yep, we've there's always donations, and we've also got liking us on Facebook, on YouTube. We've got a channel there. YouTube/sharkonline.org. Donate buttons there, and then passing those videos around. That's a great help if in lieu of giving money, and as well in our newsletter we're always asking people to contact so and so and here's a videotape these guys got. I don't agree with this. Make a change. And so we always need people to write emails or make a phone call as well, and let people know what you think.
Yeah, and the videos are a great thing to attach to these emails because it supports your case, the evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that videotape is so powerful.
Thank you so much, and your work is really inspiring, and you're a real hero. So, thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. Thank
All right,
you.
Mike.
Thanks to all the tech out there too.
Yeah, well, we hope to. I will speak to you again. I've got a lot of questions personally about like some technical stuff we talked about that we want to bore the average viewer about. So, thanks again. Have a good night. And you said you're in Nebraska, right?
Yep.
No?
Yep.
Okay. Are you in Omaha?
No, we're out in the plains, middle of the state.
Because there's an amazing vegan restaurant in Omaha if you have an opportunity called Modern Love. We've been wanting to go. It's the only reason to go to Nebraska, in our opinion, and you're there. So, after you do the important work, you should treat yourself to Modern Love.
I got it written down. We'll be in all night. So.
All right, cool. All right. Thanks, Mike. Have a good one.
Mike, take care.
Thank you.